Dharmendra Choudhary, as you mentioned, foreign trade counsel at the law firm GDLSK. It's actually one of the largest U.S. law firms focused exclusively on customs and international trade issues. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
So as we heard, their candidates have a range of things to say when it comes to doing trade with China. And one of the real hot button ones is from Donald Trump saying he'll impose this 45% tariff on imported Chinese goods. How does the rhetoric actually stack up to the reality of these claims?
This issue is clouded by a lot of misinformation, and we need to peel back the rhetoric and look at it in the light of the U.S. trade law and the U.S.'s WTO obligations. First of all, President cannot raise tariff by executive action. Raising tariffs, imposing tariffs is the sole prerogative of Congress under Article 1 of U.S. Constitution. But let's say President gets Congress to pass a bill imposing 45% flat rate of duty, then what happens? This action will be immediately challenged by China in WTO before dispute settlement body, and China will score the easiest of victory, and it will get retaliatory powers against to impose countermeasures against US. And as per my calculation, this quantum of retaliation is so high that China will pull a complete plug on all US exports of goods and services to China. So this proposal is simply counterproductive and unrealistic.
So basically, when he's putting these things out there, it's not actually realistic to just put this information out there as if there aren't legal guidelines to protect this from happening.
Exactly. I mean, people are not aware of the exact. Every country these days, you are working under framework of law, and not only national law, but also international law. You have obligations to WTO. All the countries are interconnected, and you cannot take any action on your own without facing sanctions.
Now, with that being said, what would you think are some better strategies to help with this perceived unfairness when it comes to imported goods from China?
So we already have in place very strict regime of anti-dumping and countervailing duty measures. And to tell you about anti-dumping, I mean, the allegation is that goods from China are being exported to US market and the export price is less than the fair value of goods. And the margin between the two is the anti-dumping duty. So let's say if the goods had been exported from a country like Germany, which is considered as a market economy country by US, then the fair value of goods is the price charged by the exporter in his home market of Germany. But that's not the case with China, because United States, after considering China as a non-market economy country, rejects all the cost and price data from China, and then it applies a very convoluted methodology which yields an unreasonably high level of anti-dumping duty.
Now, as you mentioned, the way that these things are determined, back in 2001 when China first joined the WTO, as you said, it was considered a non-market economy. Now, that was a 15-year term that actually expires December 11th of this year. So what happens after that date?
No one these days believes that this transition is going to happen from US side with respect to China. We are already, creative interpretations are being bandied around that this particular Article 15 of China's accession protocol, it does not mandate US to grant a transition. And that, this total interpretation is completely disingenuous. Why I'm saying so? Because if you see the USTR annual reports, where they explain this China accession protocol, then 2012 and 2013, both reports, they have acknowledged the existence of this transition, and they said that, yes, US is going to grant China this status in 2016, December 11. So this does not make sense. But moreover, there is another point, now it has been rendered academic. The reason is that the US has recently introduced a number of changes by which, even if China achieves a market economy status, US does retain power to reject all cost and price data from China, and based on what they call as particular market situation.
Right.
And once they do that, they will continue to apply the surrogate country and surrogate value methodology and keep on achieving the same high level of anti-dumping duty. So the thing is that from US perspective, head I win and tail you lose.
So basically, it ends up being a lose-lose because it's an unbalanced system.
Right, right.
Now, with that being said, as we try to kind of negotiate this and try and make things more fair, but who ends up losing out in all this with this trade remedy mechanism that you talked about?
ultimately, US consumers and US end users are going to be the biggest loser in all the process, because, ultimately this anti-dumping duty is not paid by Chinese exporter, it is paid by the US importer. And US importer is going to pass on this duty burden on to US consumers, and then they will have to buy per force very high priced goods produced by US domestic industry instead of fair value goods being imported from China. And there's also a very unique thing how US is determining the fair value of goods imported from China. As I said, in case of Germany, it is based on the home market price. But in case of China, they apply the surrogate country and surrogate value methodology, which has two anomalies. They go to a third country, not in China, like these days typically Thailand. And then in Thailand, they will not value the goods based on, like this is a live case we are working on, the ice maker kit. They're not going to value the goods based on the sale price in Thailand. Instead, they will determine all the inputs which have gone into its production, all material, all non-material, labor, energy, overhead, and they will then assign surrogate value based on a global search of price data from all over the world. And this is what keeps me busy all the year round. I'm traveling all over the world, and my team and I have been, with a very hard work, we have been able to maintain a semblance of, I would say, level playing field in US with respect to a number of Chinese products. Otherwise, it would have been wiped out completely.
Well, it's definitely something that we'll be keeping an eye on. Thank you so much for joining us, Dharmendra Choudhary from GDLSK Law Firm. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.